Hello everyone, this is Sudipta from Technical Potpourri and welcome to my new video. So this is my third video on the Google Cloud Platform cloud storage. In the first video, I have covered the basic concept around cloud storage, like what is objects, bucket, what is the different cloud storage classes, cloud storage locations you have, and also I've given you a demo how you can create your first cloud storage inside Google Cloud Platform. In the second video, I've covered a little advanced topic like versioning, lifecycle, and retention. Now in today's video, I'm going to cover the concept of retention, how you can configure retention policies inside your Google Cloud Storage, and what are the different options that you have. So without any further delay, let's dive in. Okay, so here I am inside my Google Cloud Console. So the first thing I'll do, I'll activate the Cloud Shell. So for that, I'll click here and it's going to activate my Cloud Shell here. So my Cloud Shell is activated. Once my Cloud Shell is activated, I'm going to create a cloud storage and I'm going to give the name as same as my project name. And I want to use this name for my subsequent commands inside the Cloud Shell. That's why I want to store the project name inside a variable. And the command for that is export bucket followed by this one, where bucket is a variable where I want to store the name of the project. So I click on execute and my project name is being stored inside this variable called bucket, which I'll be using to create my first cloud storage and also in my all subsequent commands. So now what I'll do, I'll use that variable to create my first bucket. So the command for that is this one. And once I execute the command, it will create the bucket for me. So if I go and do a refresh, I can see my first bucket, cloud storage bucket, is ready with the name of Technical Potpourri. Now if I click on that, I can see that bucket is ready, but there is nothing inside that bucket. All looks good. Now what I want to do, I want to add a retention policy inside this bucket. Now what is retention policy? That is something that you need to understand. So retention policy is something which tells how long you want to retain your file inside your cloud storage bucket. By when I'm telling retain, it means once you upload a file, how long you want that files to be secured. Secured in terms of nobody cannot delete the file, nobody cannot overwrite the file, and nobody cannot archive the file. So once a file is being uploaded, how long you want to make that file safe inside your cloud storage bucket. That is called the retention policy. So for this demo, let's make a retention policy inside the cloud storage bucket named Technical Potpourri, and the retention period, let's say 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. So here is the command which will set the retention policy of 120 seconds inside the bucket. Now if I execute, it will create the retention policy. Now once the retention policy is ready or set, how you can see what is the retention policy? Command for that is exactly the same, but instead of set, first we need to get rid of this 120 seconds, and instead of set, just type get, and what it will show you that there is a retention policy of type unlocked. Now what is unlocked and locked? I am coming to that very shortly in this video, but let's understand, like 120 seconds is the retention policy under this bucket. So all looks good. Now let's upload a file inside this bucket and see if the retention policy is being applied on that particular file. So I have already downloaded a file inside my local drive and it's called Google Cloud Platform.jpg. Now I'm going to copy this file inside this bucket. So this is the file I'm going to copy inside the bucket. So the command for that is gsutilcp Google Cloud Platform.jpg, which is the name of the file, and then inside this bucket. Now once I do that, my file is being copied. So now if I go inside this bucket, I can see I need to do a refresh, and once I do the refresh, I'll see that there will be a file. So let's go and see. I'll see that there is already a file called Google Cloud Platform.jpg. Now, if you see this file is being uploaded at 10:46:55 AM, and my retention policy is 2 minutes, right? So if under this column, you can see the retention policy expired date is 10:48:55 AM. So exactly 2 minutes. So what will happen if I try to remove this file within this 2 minutes? So let's do that. Let's try to do that. gsutil rm, then bucket followed by the file name. If I try to remove the file, what it will do, it will throw me an exception, which is an access denied exception, and it will tell this file is under retention policy and you cannot delete this file or overwrite this file until this time. So let's wait for 2 minutes and then I'll come back and we'll try to delete the file after the 2 minutes when the retention policy will be expired. So I'm back after 2 minutes. Now let's try to delete the file again. Now if I try to execute the same command again, I can see the file is being deleted successfully. So if I go and refresh, the file is not there. So it means that I can delete the file once the retention policy is expired. Now let's go and see the retention policy that we have inside this bucket. So if I execute the same command again, I can see that I have a retention policy of 120 seconds and the type of the retention policy is unlocked. So now I'm going to cover this topic. Now we have two types of retention policy. One is called unlocked and one is called locked. Now the retention policy is unlocked. By unlocked means that you can remove this retention policy from this bucket, or you can reduce the time duration of this retention policy. For example, currently is 120 seconds and you can make it 100 seconds. And if that is something you don't want to do, means if you don't want that once the retention policy is set on a bucket, nobody should be allowed to delete the retention policy, and to reduce the time duration of the retention policy, then you need to make the retention policy type as locked. By doing locked, it means that once the retention policy is set, you cannot delete the retention policy, you cannot reduce the time duration inside the retention policy, but you can always extend the retention policy time duration. So let's make this retention policy as locked. So the command for that is gsutil retention, and then instead of get, it will be lock, and it will ask for your permission. So you type yes, and then your retention policy is locked. So this time if I execute this get command, I can see my retention policy is locked. So again, now nobody cannot delete the retention policy, nobody cannot reduce the time duration under this retention policy. For example, it is 120 seconds, you cannot make it 110 or 100, but you can always extend that. You can always make it 130, you can always make it 150 seconds. So that is the locked or unlocked type of retention in cloud storage. Now let's understand a concept called temporary lock. So let's understand this use case. I have a cloud storage bucket where the retention policy is 120 seconds. Now if I upload a file right now, it will be secured for 120 seconds. Secured means nobody cannot delete the file, nobody cannot overwrite the file, nobody cannot archive the file. But what will happen after 120 seconds? We have already seen that you are allowed to delete the file, overwrite the file, or archive the file. But what if your requirement is, even if the retention policy is expired, but I'm still not allowing others to do modification on this particular file? For example, if there is an audit going on, right? You want nobody should go and delete any file from this cloud storage for next 7 days when the audit will happen. How can you do that? The way to do that, by configuring a temporary lock on this cloud storage. So let's make a temporary lock. Before that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this particular file again inside this bucket. And my copy is done. So if I do a refresh now, I can see the file is there. Now I want to put a temporary lock on this file so that even after the retention policy expired, nobody is allowed to delete or modify or overwrite this or archive this file. So the command for that is gsutil retention, and then it's a temporary. So temp set, and under which file is basically, this is the name of the file. So once you do that, it's basically putting a temporary lock on this file. So let's wait for the retention policy to expire, and then what I'll do, I'll try to delete the file and we'll see what will happen. So I'll come back once the retention policy is expired. So I'm back and my retention policy is also expired. So let me try to delete this particular file. And the comment for this is this one, gsutil.rm followed by the file name. Now if I do that, what I can see is that again it's access denied, and the reason for this is that there is an active temporary hold, and by having the temporary hold, it's not allowed to do deletion, overwrite or archive on this particular file. Now once your temporary lock is done or temporary hold is done, how you can release that, right? So the comment for this is almost similar, but instead of temporary set, you will do a temp release. And your temporary release is gone. So now if you try to go and delete the same file again, you will be allowed to do the delete. Yeah, the deletion is done. So if I do a refresh, you'll see the file is gone. So these are the things that you can do inside your Google Cloud Storage to implement your retention policy. You might have different use cases around the retention policies, but you have all the flexibility to implement that inside your Google Cloud Storage, inside the Google Cloud platform. So I hope this video is helpful. Please hit the like icon and share, and please subscribe to my channel so that you get to know about all my upcoming videos. Till then, thank you. Bye bye.